All right. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Showdown Breakdown. Where my turds at? Today we're breaking down the Monday night game between the Vikings and Seattle, the Seahawks, at Seattle. Got a 50-point total on this game. Very exciting. Very, very close spread with the Seahawks coming in as 2-point home favorites. This is really good stuff. This is really different from a lot of the games we've seen lately, so I'm excited for this one. Very different from last night. There's a lot of focused offense going on here. There's some clear turds to take a look at, both sides. Really interesting pricing. We've got a running back controversy on Seattle going on, but let's break down the fundamentals. Okay, this is where we get started. Vikings run defense has been very good this season, particularly at home. They're number 4 overall in DVOA. That means they're very good. Pass defense, right in the middle of the pack, 16th overall DVOA, which means they are just all right. Just all right. It's a good team to attack via the pass. Helpful because the Seattle passing offense is pretty much number 1 on the board. They are the most efficient offense in the league when they throw. When they choose to throw, we know this about Seattle. If it's a close game, they'll just lean on the run. They'll play low scoring like they did against the Eagles last week. But if they need to, they unleash the beast that is Russell Wilson. Defensively, the Seahawks are literally middle of the pack in everything. 17th in run defense, 14th in pass defense. So you can attack this Seattle Seahawks defense however you like. They're really nothing special. Nothing stands out about them. Nothing to worry about. It's right middle of the pack. So let's get into the showdown breakdown, because when you have middle of the road defense, we got to understand who these teams are, who they throw to, what's going on. There are some, interesting notes I think that we can go over. It's always best to look at it on the Draftkings screen because I can filter them down by position. But real quick, before we actually get into any of that, let's take a look at the Statsational Power Ranking sheet. This is the sheet that we do for every single sport for DFS Army subscribers, where you can get a predicted total in terms of rushing yards, receiving yards, rushing yards, total yards per team, and a predicted score. This is more of a sports gambling model, but we use it for our DFS as well. So looking at the model, we see both teams are projected to get around 130 rushing yards total. For Seattle, that might include a little bit of rushing yards for Russell Wilson himself. Minnesota, that's really going to be all about Dalvin Cook with a little bit of Alexander Matheson sprinkled in. Passing yards, 250, 260. So pretty middle of the road total predictions, which means this could go either way. If these are the median predictions, we can expect this to go either way. So that's just good to note. Again, lots of passing, lots of rushing, lots of potential offense. Bobby, what's up, my man? So here we go. Where my turds at? Let's take a look at the cheat sheet for tonight's game. And this is that's the Fanduel one. I'm going to pop over to DraftKings for the cheat sheet. And this gives you an idea of Josh DFS Up North's predictions for the game. We've got every player with recommended exposures here and some nice notes on everyone that you can definitely read through when you have a moment. I always do. Josh is the GOAT. You got to read his stuff and pay close attention to it. But, just overall, in an overall view, you see here some recommended captains on DraftKings. Dalvin Cook being a big one. He's a little expensive. For me, I really love Dalvin Cook. At the captain spot this week, of course, stud running back. What can go wrong? Lots of running game action. Russell Wilson, of course. Russell Wilson, if he's going to be your captain, you're going to want to pair him up with some wide receivers. I would say at least one for Russell Wilson. He runs the football. He does some things. He spreads the football out. So the rule for me for Wilson would be Wilson with at least one pass catcher. Diggs, if he has a smash game, he could be there. If I'm using Diggs, I probably want Kirk Cousins in the actual flex spot. So if I have Diggs at my captain, I'm going to make a rule that says use at least Kirk Cousins in the flex if I use Diggs. Lockett can always have a big game. Again, similar rule I would use for Lockett if I have a wide receiver in the captain. I'm going to make a rule, make sure to use this quarterback in the flex. And then here's some low end potentials, including Olabisi Johnson, who is probably the best value on the board today. Now, Bobby, the cat's literally in my closet in the laundry bag sleeping, but she might hear this and make an appearance. So you never know. She does like to come out. She does like to come out during these broadcasts, but right now she's sleeping in the closet, in the laundry basket, on quite a high pile of laundry, no less. All DFS Army gear. All right, let's get into this, guys. So 2 teams facing off, both of which have kind of very, very focused offenses. Now, like I like to do every week, we're going to go offense by offense and just get an overview of how these teams will play out, who they throw to, who's involved, and then we'll make our decisions based off of that. So I'm going to start with the Minnesota side. And as you can see, Adam Thielen is out this week. Now, what that has created, Thielen was expected to play. So the fact that he's out has created a situation where Olabisi Johnson, a.k.a. BC, is significantly underpriced relative to his role. Now, what does that mean? This guy had 9 targets last week, or last time he played. 2 weeks ago, they had a bye. 4 targets the week before, but heavily involved. Hasn't done much. Hasn't done much with the targets, but they're there. Now, the Vikings are not going to roll out 3 wide receiver sets most of the time, or at least they haven't done this in games where Thielen has been out. So it's going to be Olabisi and Stephon Diggs. I would expect Richard Sherman to be on Diggs. I don't know that for sure. I don't know not Richard Sherman. What the fuck am I saying? Richard Sherman's not on this team. They don't even have a I don't know why I thought that. I was thinking of Xavier Rhodes, and that's the opposite side. Richard Sherman, not on this team. It's 2019. Stop it, Kevin. All right, anyway, nothing to worry about essentially in the Seattle secondary anyway. They don't have shutdown corners. Doesn't matter. Olabisi Johnson, though, will be out there. Diggs will be out there on the other side. And what we'll see is 2 tight end sets with Irv Smith and Kyle Rudolph. Now, it's interesting that Smith is cheaper than Rudolph. Rudolph is only up here in salary because he had that 2-touchdown explosion a couple weeks ago and another touchdown. He's been catching a lot of touchdowns, a lot of red zone roll. But Irv Smith is out there just as much. Both of these guys had an 80+% snap count last week last time they played. I keep saying last week. Last time they played without Thielen. So Irv Smith, 6'3", similar number. Hasn't done as much, but he's a lot cheaper. But that doesn't mean past performance is not an indicator of future results. It's very possible that Irv Smith is the guy and Kyle Rudolph is not. And by the way, these 2 guys can be played together. So when we're talking about our turds, Irv Smith gets turd level salary, right? $3,600 below the kicker. He's going to be out there 80% of the snaps. Now, says, I'm not giving a mega throbber for this guy. He hasn't done shit yet, but he's cheap. He's very affordable, $3,600. The expectation was when they were giving him his salary was that Thielen was going to play. Remember, what we're trying to do is take advantage of mispricings first and foremost. That's where we get our value from. And I'm sure if I sort the domination station, let's see here. Am I on DraftKings? Let's go over to DraftKings and I'll show you how this works itself out. When you sort the domination station by value, you're going to see some of these guys were not expected to be. Laquan, no, too turdly. But these guys were not expected to be starting. So like Olabisi Johnson gets a really good points per dollar spread. And we'll talk about some of these other spots. But where's my man Irv Smith? Irv Smitty's. 3,600. He's getting a 5.68 point projection. So 1.58. As good as some of these more expensive guys. So where's the other guy? And Olabisi is the biggest one being out there for as long as he is. Now, this is just, to me, just projection I don't love, but Laquan Turdwell. And Laquan Turdwell was only out there about 15% of the snaps last time he played. No, definitely Sherman not on Diggs, man. Come on, Jet Bobcat. No Sherman. Sherman on San Francisco. Where are we at? Let's go back to this. There we go. Okay. So anyway, Smith underpriced for the role. He's going to be out there 80% of the time. Kyle Rudolph, again, in games where Thielen has been out, both of these tight ends have been featured heavily, and it helps that Seattle's terrible versus the tight end position. There we go. Now, going down the list, we got Olabisi Johnson, as I mentioned. He is my favorite turd on the slate because he's going to be out there the whole time. So this is a guy who's going to get all the snaps. Now, if we want to pay down, that's a place to consider. Alexander Matheson has really only had any success in games where the Vikings were smashing. He absolutely can sneak one in. It's a turd, but it's a 5%er. Don't have a lot of exposure. I like Alexander Matheson in games where the Vikings are heavily favored. That's not what we have here. So we're just going down the bottom end of the list, right? Laquan Treadwell, it's a no for me, guys. It's a no. He had one game where he had a lot of work, and then Olabisi Johnson kind of took over this role. Laquan Treadwell is the ultimate in horrible turds. CJ Ham, no. So we don't want any of that. So that basically gives us the bottom end of the breakdown. Now at the top end, when we're talking about the Vikings offense, Stephon Diggs has not really taken a lot of advantage of not having Thielen around in terms of targets. 5.65. These are just really poor numbers overall for Diggs. That doesn't mean that's going to continue. And again, Diggs is the primary guy, so we want to get a lot of exposure to him, especially if we're playing Kirk Cousins. If Kirk Cousins is having a big game, he's probably throwing to Diggs. I mean, the tight ends can be involved as well. So let's say you wanted to do a Kirk Cousins captain, you should really have at least two of, and that's going to be the rule you're going to set. If you're going to assume Kirk Cousins is your captain. Now, Kirk Cousins is a sketchy captain. We don't like quarterback captains as much as we do wide receivers or running backs because it just takes a lot more for the quarterback to get there, especially a guy like Cousins who doesn't run much. But if you're going to use him, he needs to be paired up with Diggs and a second guy, be it Olabisi or Rudolph, or even, I'd almost count, you could almost say Cooks is a pass catcher. Dalvin Cook could catch a touchdown pass, so I would count him on that. He gets 7 receptions per game, and he hasn't caught a lot of touchdowns. I just think that's noise. The fact that he hasn't had receiving touchdowns, it means nothing. We'll get to the Seattle side, obviously, and the RB controversy soon enough. But first we want to look through the Vikings pieces, and I really love Dalvin Cook here. I think they're going to lean on him like crazy in this game if they can. And the thing about Seattle is they're non-aggressive, so it's unlikely. Seattle's rarely the kind of team that jumps out to a massive lead. It could happen, but they need to be dominating with a run a lot of times for that to happen. They'll just sit back and kind of play a slow offense, lots of running game, kick a field goal. They're not pressing the issue. I said this last time they played against the Eagles when everybody was loading up on these guys. If the Eagles aren't scoring, Seattle's not going to bother. They'll win the game, but they're going to do it at their pace, at a slow pace, the way that Pete Carroll plays the games. We have a lot of years of history on this team. They don't go in and just smash teams. They always play them close, almost purposefully. I don't know why they do it, but that's how they do it. They'd rather lean on the run. They think it's safer, so they only unleash Russell Wilson when they need to. What ends up happening is they're rarely smashing teams or getting into these massive leads unless their defense is doing something. So this game doesn't project that way. So I fully expect everybody to be involved and the both teams to be sort of pressing, needing to score back and forth, which brings us back to Cousins. He could throw it to Cooks. So Dalvin Cook, it's hard to afford these two together. You don't leave a whole lot of space, but there is space. It's not like nothing. It's not nothing. There's enough space to do it. So, if you start a team off like that, again, we have the Olabisi cheat code. We've got Irv Smith. We've got some other ways to make it work. But again, we want Cousins with Diggs in there. And then, here's a lineup, right? You did a lineup. Now, of course, these are all Vikings. And when we put the Seahawks in there, it'll feel a little bit different. But this gives you an idea. Cousins with 2 of his pass catchers. I would include Dalvin Cook as a pass catcher, but more likely it's Olabisi, Irv. Where's my boy Dolph? Two of these guys. Any two of these with Cousins. I'm not including Laquan Treadwell because he's like a super turd, man. 11%. They'll throw to him once or twice, but if he doesn't catch it for a touchdown, you're not gonna win the tournament with that guy. Have some exposure to this guy if you're entering this contest that you see here with 141,000 entrants. Remember, you have to have uniqueness and be different somehow to win this style of content. You're not going to win it by just going chalk. That's not how it works. You never will win this that way. You've got to have some unique idea. You can think of different game flows. What about a game flow where the Vikings jump out to a big lead early and just lean on the run, or Seattle jumps out to it, they lean on the run and Vikings just, horrible defense. You can think of all these different various scenarios that could go down and build teams around those scenarios. But the best overall approach is just to make sure you have rules in place to logically create scenarios that might work. Cousins, again, if he's going to be your captain, how does he get there? He gets there by throwing it to two guys. If he's throwing it to just one guy, that guy, Diggs, is going to be the captain. Like if Diggs has a monster game, he's going to outscore Kirk Cousins. So you need Cousins and more than one of Diggs. You need Diggs and Smith, or Diggs not to have the biggest game ever, but to have a good game. That's how he becomes the captain. You have to do the math. Okay, because some of these situations just can't work. You can't have Cousins as your captain, but none of his pass catchers are in the flex because they all suck. How the fuck did Kirk Cousins get there if he didn't throw multiple touchdowns? He's not a running quarterback generally, right? All right, so again, Viking side, where my turds at, you've got Laquan Turdwell, the turdliest of turds in the world. 5%er. Olabisi Johnson, a great play, borderline core play on DraftKings. He's going to get lots of looks. Let's see what he's going to get. Lots of looks in the game. He's going to be out there, 9 targets in the past. He's just going to be out there scoring points for 3,600. What more do you want? 3,900, cheap price. Alexander Matheson really only comes to play again in Vikings blowouts. I don't like him on the road. So 5%er, pretty bad one. Irv Smith, good turd. We like him. Going to be out there 80% of the snaps. That's what they do when Thielen is out. And of course, Kyle Rudolph as well. Playable. Dan Bailey, the kicker, in play. Sure. Always play kickers. Don't want to have a ton of them. Always play kickers. Did I skip anyone? No. All right, let's move on to the Seattle side. And this is just a breakdown of the game. It's not DraftKings specific. So I'm trying to just do this. I use this setup because you can filter it, and I like filtering it this way. But, I mean, we could probably use the DOM for this too, but whatever. Here we go. Seattle side. Now, first of all, Russell Wilson, he's a beast. Whenever he's needed, he can go off. And look at the difference in his scores. I've had Russell Wilson as my Dynasty League quarterback for many years. I'm very familiar with his pattern. This pattern is nothing new. This has been what Russell Wilson has been his whole career. It's not because of Russell Wilson. It's because of Pete Carroll and the way they call the plays at Seattle. But they just shut him down when they don't need him. So we saw it last week. In Philadelphia, they didn't really need him too much. 11 points. Tampa game, high scoring. He goes bananas. Fairness in Baltimore game, Baltimore just shut them down. But these other games, you see, he goes off when needed. High scoring. And the other thing to note is their opponents have scored well. A lot of times, especially good offenses that they faced, have scored well. So Russell Wilson, very up and down player. If you play him in the captain spot, you want to pair him with at least one of his pass catchers. That's Lockett, Metcalf. I don't mind both. If he's going to go crazy, it'll be both. But sometimes he runs for a touchdown. Everybody won yesterday, by the way. Everybody won the showdown, the Fanduel one. Like the second lineup that the domination station generated was like the nuts. It was crazy. And it didn't take long. It was very easy to win the DraftKings one, too. It's just amazing how the Dom station was on putting James White in the flex and just having James White and Kenny Stills, like I said, the top lineup, the first projected lineup on FanDuel, I used it, and it was like, it was top 0.05%. It cashed in everything. Everybody won last night, DFS Army. Okay. Russell Wilson. So who's he throw to? Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf are your two main guys. And then the third wide receiver spot is very interesting. So it's been split up between Josh Gordon, David Moore, and one other turd, Turner. Miles Turner, right? Moore, Turner, Gordon. About a three-way split, 33% of the time. Now, here's the deal. Is Josh Gordon's snap share going to go up this week? He's been with the team a little, one target, two targets, one. This is the ultimate in tournament play, okay? I'm not fucking with this in any sort of like a high dollar or anything like that. He's also way expensive considering, but Josh Gordon, are they going to actually start to work him in and give him more snaps compared to Moore and Turner? Maybe. Turdner. You want Malik Turdner? Two targets, one target. You want David Moore? These are your turds. Like, one of these guys might catch a touchdown pass tonight. One of these guys might have a single play. Two targets, David Moore. Josh Gordon, two targets. These two target guys. One of them might be the guy that puts you into the money in this contest. Now, you ask me which one it is, right? Hey, Kevin. Which guy? I don't fucking know. I don't know. It's just it's a chance occurrence. Now, we can speculate that Josh Gordon will get more. I see Antoine is speculating that Josh Gordon will get more snaps than the 25% share he got last week. That's cool. You can speculate it. I believe that if we're going to speculate that, yes, it's more likely that they're increasing the role for Josh Gordon, especially after a bye week, than it is that they're increasing the role for David Moore or Malik Turner. Who the fuck are these guys? They didn't go out and trade for Josh Gordon because they thought Malik Turner was the answer. But it's speculation. We don't know. Josh Gordon could have been smoking crack last week. And like he's all cracked out now. I don't know what this guy does. We don't know. Was he with the team? Was he practicing? He was with the team. Did they even practice last week during the bye? I don't know. Is he any good? Why did the Patriots get rid of him? They don't have a lot of wide receivers. I don't know. So it's speculation. So these are all turd plays. We don't want too much of them. Let's see what Josh has to say about these guys. And then we'll get to Hollister. Josh Gordon. Where is it? Here we go. 10 to 15%er. What about Moore? David Moore and Turner, 1 to 5%ers. So clearly, Josh likes Gordon better than these other two turds. Clear number 4 in this offense, he says. Malik Turner. There's only more than one catch in 2 games, but he's a downfield threat. So each of these guys are going to be there. With Gordon, he'll be there as well. 35% snap count, and that's what we were talking about. So that's just important. That means you get exposure to these guys, but don't count on them. Oh, I got more of these. Well, I got more of these, Bobby. Don't forget about Jacob Hollister. He's not a turd, though. We love Hollister. Okay, Hollister is one of my favorite plays. On the slate, he's cheap. He's Russell Wilson's tight end. That's a good thing to be. He's coming off the Eagles game where he wasn't used heavily. The Eagles stop tight ends. They're good at that. Not the Vikings. The Vikings are bad at that. So love Hollister. One of my faves. Across the board. He's got a 20-pointer. He's got a 19-pointer in his history. Lots of good things to like about Jacob Hollister. Okay? Love that situation. Now, that's your passing attack for Seattle. Again, primary guys, Lockett, DK Metcalf, Hollister, with a little turdly goodness for Josh Gordon, and then even less turdly goodness for Malik Turner and David Moore. All right? Now, what are we doing with this running game? Okay, first of all, let me explain something. Pete Carroll is a liar. He fucking lies. He is the ultimate in coach speak, lying coaches. Never believe a word that comes out of that man's mouth. Never. He lies. Oh, we love Chris Carson still. We love all his fumbles. We're not worried about it. Penny, yeah, we're gonna give him some work. You can't believe a word this guy says. But what we do know is that the Vikings have a good DVOA versus the run compared to their defense versus the pass. It doesn't bode as well for someone like Chris Carson. The other thing that doesn't bode well is he's been playing like shit lately. With 3.3 yards, 3.6 yards, he hasn't been great. He's not terrible, but he hasn't been great. Whereas all of a sudden, Rashard Penny, who now is like a little bit cheaper, he's been kind of looking a little bit better, at least for one game. So our sentiment is kind of floating back and forth between these guys. Yes, Pete Carroll, he's a liar, like Pinocchio. So what do we do with this situation? My thing is, listen, you have to treat both of these guys as sketchy at best. Okay, first of all, it's not the best matchup on paper, but second of all, we don't know. There's a lot of mystery. Now, mystery is good for tournaments, but it's not the best for trying to kind of create a high floor. Let me lineup now. Let me just check here. We'll look at some ownerships. All right, so Chris Carson, figure about 25 to 35% ownership as a projection. Whereas Penny should be less. Now, how much less? 20%? Something like that. 20% ownership for Penny, maybe 30 for Chris Carson. So I think that Penny will be lower, but that could change. That could change. Depends how it's really tough right now. It's still even early in the day. It depends how a lot of kind of tout sites and Kenny G's asking about a Cooks, Penny, and Carson lineup. Why would you want to do that, my man? Just why? I don't understand it. No, don't do that. So when you're making a rule, all right, so here we go. What's more important than which player actually gets the work? We don't know. It could be half and half. Last week it was 50-50 split. They could go back to 80-90% Chris Carson. They could swap completely to Penny. We don't know. You don't know. If somebody's telling you they know, they're lying. Even Pete Carroll doesn't know. They're fucking liar. No matter what he says, it's a lie. We don't know. So what do we do with this? When you're making a rule on the domination station, the beautiful thing is you're allowed to make rules, smart rules. So the first thing you do is you go, Chris Carson is flex, stacked with exactly 0 of Penny. This isn't a hard rule to make. How about if he's your captain MVP? You definitely don't want him with Penny. Okay? What about Penny? Do I want him with Chris Carson when he's my captain? No. 0. That's how you deal with this shit. Randomness on Joseph Ramirez. Set it at 10%. Set it at 10%. Always 10%. 10% is always a good number. You want to go higher? Even that's fine too. Doesn't matter. Rules are more important. Okay? We've covered all these guys. If Wilson, what did I say? If Wilson is my captain, then I'm going to stack with at least what the fuck is going on here? My screen's moving slow. I don't know what the hell's happening. At least one of, and then we talked about which guys. We're going to do at least one of his pass catchers. That's Lockett. That's Gordon. That's Hollis Turd. DK Metcalf, right? So at least one of these guys, even more, and even Malik Turner, fall in this mix, right? And could we include one of the running backs? Yes, but I'm not going to. So here we go. You make a rule, right? That's how you deal with these situations. All right, so let's take a look back. So again, Wilson, top guys are going to be Lockett and Metcalf. One of the turds here, potentially between Gordon, Moore, and Malik Turner, with Josh Gordon being the best of that group, and these other two kind of being on the downswing, but certainly borderline no ownership. So you want to get like 5% turdliness going with Moore and Turner, maybe 15% on a Gordon. We love Jacob Hollister. Great spot. I think he's a core play. 15, 20%er. Not a core play. Well, there you go. I like Hollister more than Josh. So Josh is also a DFS up north. Josh is a local to Minnesota. He is a Vikings fan. So we're very familiar with this team. There we go. FanDuel side. So let's jump over to FanDuel real quick. Who are we going to play in the MVP spot? Exposures. Now that we know, you understand the game totals. Russell Wilson, always a candidate to be put in here. If he's in there, again, you got to stack with at least one of his guys, maybe two. He can run. Do I dress from Hollister? I dress from Marshalls, man. Definitely not Hollister. All right. Russell Wilson, at least one or two of his pass catchers on FanDuel. I would include on FanDuel, maybe, I'm still a little sketchy about it, Chris Carson. I haven't seen Chris Carson catching too many touchdown passes, but we've seen the running back could do it. EJ had attacks. What happened last night is not relevant to tonight. Two different games. Has nothing to do with it. But quarterback is always a good play on FanDuel at the MVP. Always. It's one of the most winning. It wins at like 33% that it's the quarterback. It's about 38% that it's the running back, and it's about 20% that it's a pass catcher. That's how it works on FanDuel. On DraftKings, it's much more likely to be a pass catcher than it is a quarterback. Although you don't know. Like I said, on FanDuel, the quarterback is your primary. Quarterback is king on FanDuel across all their contests. That's how their scoring works. On DraftKings, it favors wide receivers and pass catchers over the quarterback and the running back position, unless the running back is a pass catcher as well. So that's important to keep in mind. We at DFS Army, we keep a spreadsheet of who wins, how frequently, and what types of approaches win these contests. All right, so again, getting back to this, Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins are your two top candidates for the FanDuel MVP. Wilson, we want to stack him with at least one, maybe two of his pass catchers. Cousins. And again, if we use a pass catcher, so let's say you want to throw Tyler Lockett or a Stephon Diggs into the captain MVP spot on FanDuel, this is very, very important. You want to have their quarterback, but not other pass catchers from their team in the flex. So if Dalvin Cook is my captain, not my captain, my MVP. Think about the math. If Dalvin Cook is having a smash game, and let's say Kyle Rudolph is also touchdowning 100 yards, he smashes also, then chances are the MVP will be Kirk Cousins, because he's given out so much to these two different players from his team. So in that case, if you put Diggs as the captain, as the MVP, and you have Kirk Cousins in the lineup in the flex, it's highly unlikely that a second player will also have a flex-worthy score like an Irv Smith or especially if they're expensive. It could work with a turd. Tristan is asking on FanDuel. FanDuel is all about touchdowns. So yes, touchdown scorers are where you want to focus on FanDuel across all of their contests. Here we go. Estimate ownership on Olabisi. You got to give me a site, my man. Okay? You got to give me a site. Each one is going to be different. FanDuel and DraftKings, totally different. But I would say on DraftKings, it's going to be over 30%. On Fanduel, how much is Olabisi? 7,500? Yeah. Yeah, about 30%. Same. It's going to be high. He's cheap. He's one of the cheapest viable guys. So who do you want to play? Olabisi Johnson and Malik Turner, right? Or Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon's going to be high owned on FanDuel. Why? Because he's a touchdown scorer, right? He's a big dude. They could throw him in the end zone. He might score a touchdown for 6,500. David Moore also, but at a lower ownership. So, when you're looking on the FanDuel side, yeah, these guys are touchdown scorers. Gordon, Turner, and Moore. Olabisi's more of a yardage guy, a possession guy. He could score a touchdown. But, he's not likely to. He hasn't done that. It's not been the role he's played, but he could score one. I like these tight ends quite a bit. On FanDuel, remember, tight ends are much more likely to be used in the end zone targets than a wide receiver is. Like, the tight ends tend to catch touchdowns, especially Kyle Rudolph this season. But Irv Smith could be in the same boat, and definitely Hollister in the same boat. Turd in the same boat. So all of those things are very, very possible, plausible. We want touchdown scores. The salaries on FanDuel for Rashard Penny and Chris Carson are borderline crazy. I understand why Josh has these lower percentages on them than you would expect. I mean, Chris Carson sharing targets against a good Vikings run defense. Man, it's hard to pay this $1,300. It's hard to pay that. It's hard to want to, especially when Dalvin Cook, who is a million times better, is right here at 14.5. I want to load up on Dalvin Cook, and I do not agree with this stuff here. I'm going to have a lot of Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook's a stud. He's like a 40% or 50% for me. Do I think Rudolph and the 5 targets is going to be a good captain on DraftKings? He's a captain, not a good one. He's a captain. It's not a good captain that always wins. What's a good captain? Is a good captain the one that wins you the tournament? Can he win you the tournament if you play him? Yeah. Yeah, he could. Is he probably going to? No. But can he? Yes. How do you win the tournament? Do you win it by playing the most obvious guy? You play Dalvin Cook? You're going to win the tournament with that? Maybe. But you're not going to scoop it unless you do something unique. So I don't ever mind you getting silly. Now, do you want to throw Malik Turner in there? Nah, it's a bit much, guys. Come on. But if you want to throw a guy who's going to be out there every single snap, who's caught multiple touchdowns in a game before, then go for it. If it works, you might win 100K. Or you might win $1 million. If it doesn't work, okay. Were you really expecting to win $1 million? Like, do that 100 times. If it works once and you win the mill, okay, then it was great. Do you want me to recommend it so that everybody watching this video says, well, Geek said to play Irv Smith at the captain. And, Irv Smith ended up with 4 receptions for 62 yards in a 10-point day. Geek sucks. He fucking sucks now. I don't want to give you a guy that's going to be played 3%, that'll win 1 out of 100. You're not going to watch this breakdown 100 times. You'll give up on it after the second time if it's shit, or the third time. Yeah. Who do we like? Anybody who's a big play guy. It's more important that you understand the connections between the players in your lineups than worrying too much about the players when we're attacking a tournament. Now let's talk about cash. All right, so I get into a lot of tournament strategy. People say you talk too much about MME, mass multi-entry. Tell me, cash, who should I play in cash? Cash is not hard. Cash is not hard. Here's what I do in cash. Dalvin Cook and the MVP. I squeeze in. I try to get both of these guys in there. Okay? I don't know. Like, you're going to ask me about Carson, about Lockett, about that. I don't know. So I'm just going to play the big guys, right? I already like Turd. Who do I got left? 6500? No, you want to play Josh Gordon? Okay. How about a different way? Who do I like a lot? Olabisi? Okay. Who do I have enough left for? 7,500? Don't like. Josh Gordon. So now I'm just making a choice between, I don't like Josh Gordon, right? I don't like it. But I got to make a choice between Olabisi or Hollister. I think I like Hollister more. Okay. Could do it a little different. Could throw a kicker in there. Seattle kicker in there. Just want to build a high floor lineup. There's another way to go. But, I mean, these are the guys you want in your cash. These are the guys I want. Then pick the other two. Let's see what the domination station says. Hang on. What is this? Fanduel? Fuck. I made rules. But, all right, even with the rules, you know what? Let's see Draftkings. I don't want to lose my rules. Like, I want to use this and make my lineups. But, like, let's see what Draftkings says. You know what I mean? DraftKings automatically. Treadwell. We got to deal with that. No. Give him a 2. I don't like Treadwell. Do it again. All right. So, you look at who pops up. Oh, kicker, Olabisi, running back. Okay. Cousins, Wilson, Diggs. Fine. You want to do that? Sometimes I'll just run a bunch of lineups with no rules. If you took off the rules, it might be different. Guys, did I miss anything? Did I not cover any players? Do you have any actual questions about players? Who's my favorite? Somebody says, who's my favorite captain? Favorite? My favorite captain? I mean, I don't like to. I try not to pick favorites. Just like to play players that could score a lot. My favorite? I don't know. Dalvin Cook. I like Dalvin Cook. The most expensive guy. I don't think it's special to use the most expensive guy. I think it's interesting to use a cheapie like Olabisi. I don't think Olabisi. I don't think Olabisi is like a guy who's going to put up a big score. Hollister might be one of my favorites. I think Hollister's underpriced, but like you put this guy now. Let me show you Hollister. This is one of my favorites. Why? I mean, he's cheap. He gets a lot of targets. It's a good matchup. Okay. But what I like is you can afford a lot of other guys. So again, you could put Olabisi in there or Irv Smith, one of these guys. Olabisi. Now I can't even spend it all. I don't need to. How about this? One, just go down the list. Tyler Lockett, Kirk Cousins, Stephon Diggs. What's wrong with that? That looks pretty good. Do I believe in Cousins sucking? No, I don't buy that. But, it's been a thing for real, and it's on the road. And here's what's more important than believing a dumb narrative. If that does happen, make a lineup to account for it. Have a Seattle defense. Have a game where Seattle's offense just thrashes. The running backs are key. Don't need Russell Wilson in that lineup. Okay? Plan for it. We don't know what's going to happen. Right now, the only thing I ever believe ever is what the Vegas line total says. The Vegas line says both teams will score a lot. If you have an idea, and it will be close. If you're really confident that won't happen, my suggestion is to go to your sports bookie, your betting site, your local site. Go to mybookie.com.ag. Use promo code DFSArmy. And then bet on that situation happening. Like if you're sharp enough to be sharper than Vegas lines and the billions of dollars that's being bet on these games, then you should be betting it. I don't try to figure that out. I say, all right, here's the median situation that's going to occur. And then let's look at some crazy scenarios that might happen. Because again, playing a DFS is like a massive parlay. Playing a massive tournament is like a massive parlay. We're putting in $10 to try to win $1 million or $300K to first in this one. So $10 and $300K, you're not going to get that by the median outcome. You're going to get that by a 2 standard deviation unit crazy outcome happening. So if you believe that it's possible that, Kirk Cousins goes into Kirk sucks mode, his primetime game and implosion mode, it could happen. It could happen. They don't have Thielen out there. It could happen. If that does happen, then play a lineup to emphasize that. And again, that lineup would not have Russell Wilson in it. Russell Wilson is not going to beast. If the only way Russell Wilson is having a big game is if the Vikings are also doing good things. That's how he plays. Ryan Murner's asking if Madison's worth a look. Alexander Matheson is only interesting. Sure, he's worth a look, but he's only really interesting in a game where the Vikings are smashing. So Dalvin Cook already had a big game. They're up by 30. They bring him in. Or Dalvin Cook has a big play, and they take him out. They rest him. Matheson comes in for a play or two, and it just happens to bang one in for a touchdown. That absolutely happens. We've seen it. But it's not more likely to happen than it is to have like one of these turds score a touchdown. Olabisi or Turdwell, Laquan Turdwell or some shit like that. Like those all have about the same probability of happening. DA Dubs, there are no defenders on either team worth worrying about. People will say that Xavier Rhodes is actually somebody you specifically want to target players against. Somebody mentioned that they think Gordon will go up against him. I think it'll be DK Metcalf that sees a lot of Xavier Rhodes. And I like DK Metcalf for that reason, because Xavier Rhodes has been the worst or like bottom 5 cornerbacks in the league, but his team still treats him like he's a star. Like he still gets the, hey, just cover that dude one-on-one treatment, even though he just has not been able to do that this year. If you look at his stats, he's allowing like a crazy high quarterback rating on any passes that go his way. So again, tournaments versus cash games. In a cash game, I think I'm just throwing Dalvin up here in the captain spot. I love him the most. If you don't want to spend all of that, you could go down to somebody like Cousins here. If Russell Wilson's in there, I want like a Lockett. I want a DK Metcalf. I want that going on. Little old BC always opens up the salary. We play this guy, and then you could Hollister, and you can put whoever you want. So it's not hard to make, I think, pretty decent looking lineups this week. A lot of players are going to be involved. And my final advice is, again, make sure you build your rules on the domination station if you're using that. Build smart rules. Let me give you some other rules here, because I know we love the rules. We love our rules. Is this DraftKings? I don't know why I've got a little delay on my screen. If Seahawks defense is flex, then stack with exactly 0. I need to restart my computer. Stack with exactly 0 of Vikings defense. It's very unusual that 2 defenses will be in the winning lineup together. I'm not using Seahawks as the MVP. There you go. This is a game script that Never Quit is talking. Never quit, man. For real. You'll win one of these. I promise you. You're going to take one of these down if you stay at it. These are very winnable contests. Never quit. I like the name. Cook with Seattle receiver, but no Russell Wilson. Defense kicker, turd, right? So this is a, hey, Cook is beasting. Seattle is playing the comeback role. That could happen. Actually, I would include Russell Wilson in that scenario. Look at different scenarios. The Vikings jump off to a big lead, and Seattle kind of looks like shit, look flat at home. Diggs breaks one. I love Diggs. Diggs is a great captain on DK. Okay? Diggs is a great captain. Why? Because he's a big play wide receiver, and the Seahawks don't have anybody who can contain him. Now, it's possible that because the Vikings lack other players that are sort of threats, that Diggs still has, that they double team him, and so they have to throw at other guys. But if you look at these other few games here, it was just bad matchups a lot of time. Even Denver, they have Chris Harris. Dallas just always stops deep wide receivers. That's their game. KC, but much better versus the pass than the run. As it's just been their history. So Diggs can still have this big game. Ryan's asking, is it smart to leave money on the table? Yes. These contests where somebody's going to hit the nuts, meaning the winner will have the perfect lineup, okay? It's not going to be like there were 5 other lineups that no one hit. In a contest like this, somebody's going to hit the nuts lineup, the perfect lineup, and it's either going to be a bunch of ties that win it or one person scooping it solo. In these, it is smart to leave salary on the table, because what if it's Irv Smith and Rudolph and Olabisi and these cheap guys that are all the highest scorers? So be smart about it, but do not be afraid to leave a couple of thousand on the table. I don't know about this slate. I haven't done enough lineups to really get a sense of it, to get a feel for it. But yes, uniqueness is important in these contests. You want to be plus EV, have some uniqueness so that if you do win, that you don't have to split it with a million other people. Now, that feels counterintuitive. We all want to cash. We have to get away from the psychology in a massive tournament like this of wanting to cash. Your only goal and your only desire should be to win it. It shouldn't be worrying about trying to cash with your lineups that don't win. Your only interest should be winning it. And you need to bet. And don't enter these if this isn't like shits and gigs money that you can afford to lose 10 or 15 of these contests in a row without ever being profitable if you're going to mass multi-enter. There's another way of doing it. Just make one lineup, enter it against 100 people, against 50 people and head-to-heads. That's a different way, and you can approach it totally different. You don't need to get cute with this bullshit of playing turds and all of that in those kind of contests. Last night, I didn't have a lot of time. I don't want to play the show. I don't want to go into the mass multi-entry in last night's game. I just didn't like the game very much personally. So I just ran pretty much the Dom Station Optimal out, and I threw it in some smaller, and it crushed. It won. But it was in a 100-person, in a 70-person, in a 300-person small contest. Those kind of contests, no one hits the nuts. So you could take first place without finding, let's say some crazy situation happens and, the second string running back or some crazy tight end comes into the game like this Conklin guy, right? The fourth stringer. Look, he gets targets. Who's Tyler Conklin? Oh, he got a bunch. What if he caught a touchdown? Like the Tyler Conklin play. You need to worry about that. Or CJ Ham. Somebody mentioned CJ Ham. He comes in for one carry and scores a touchdown. You didn't need that. He's not going to, you need it for to win the million if that happens, but, he's not doing shit. All right, let's end it right there, guys. Good luck tonight. Don't forget to lean on the cheat sheet. We'll be in Slack talking about lineups. Don't show me your lineups too much. I don't really care to look at them all that much. My general thought in a showdown is there's nothing you could do that's very wrong. I never see a lineup and I'm like, that's terrible. I don't know. What if that's the one that wins? Again, weird shit wins tournaments. In showdowns, like weird shit happens in showdowns. I don't ever want to shoot down a lineup because what if that's the winner? I don't know. Just make smart lineups. Build a story in every lineup or just make sharp rules. Make a lot of lineups. And make sure that you're entering contests where you're comfortable losing that money. Because that's what these are. Single game, highly volatile. You can be sharp in a main slate with a lot of games and we can pick out the best spots and all of that. But in a single game, like who the fuck knows? Weird shit happens. So we want to play against ownerships. We want to play against leverage. We want to have smart lineups. And we want to use our rules to put us on the right side of the math. All right, guys. Good luck tonight. Deuces.